System by Mikhail Bakunin. Is it necessary to repeat here the irrefutable arguments of socialism which no bourgeois economist has yet succeeded in disproving? What is property? What is capital in their present form? For the capitalist and the property owner, they mean the power and the right, guaranteed by the state, to live without working. And since neither property nor capital produces anything when not fertilized by labor, that means the power and the right to live by exploiting the work of someone else, the right to exploit the work of those who possess neither property nor capital, and thus who are forced to sell their productive power to the lucky owners of both. Note that I have left out of account altogether the following question. In what way did property and capital ever fall into the hands of their present owners? This is a question which, when envisaged from the points of view of history, logic, and justice, cannot be answered in any other way but one which would serve as an indictment against the present owners.
Okay, y'all, because these capitalists think that they're entitled to enslave the rest of the world because they have the capital, they have the property, which was given to them unjustly. A lot of times, these property rights were acquired through physical force or through state coercion. So the state, this is what I'm trying to tell y'all. Y'all are telling me that I shouldn't be an anarchist. I'm not y'all, but some of the people in the comment section are saying I shouldn't be an anarchist. But I'm trying to tell you that the whole system is fucking rigged from the outset. They fucking set this up. They gave these fucking people property. I mean, property rights is not natural. It's not natural law. I mean, I'm sorry, not. It is natural law, but okay. So, like for example, intellectual property. That's not natural. Just because you came up with an idea, you get to put a patent on it, and then you get to fucking enslave people based off that shit. That's not natural. I'm trying not to contradict myself because I know I use a lot of quotes and material from Ayn Rand, but at the end of the day, I don't agree with everything Ayn Rand said. Like, Ayn Rand was full of shit. And I mean, she was correct when it came to a lot of things, when it came to altruism and what a Republican form of government is. But when she started talking about that capitalistic bullshit, no, I wasn't on the same page with her.
I shall therefore confine myself here to the statement that property owners and capitalists, inasmuch as they live not by their own productive labor, but by getting land rent, house rent, interest upon their capital, or by speculation on land, buildings, and capital, or by the commercial and industrial exploitation of the manual labor of the proletariat, all
that shit is fucking usury. All this fucking interest and rent and all that shit, and they're just accumulating wealth without producing shit, right? And I'm trying to tell you that type of economy is not sustainable. That's what I was trying to say in that live stream, which somebody fucking reported me and had it fucking taken down. But even Aristotle talked about how it is not considered real wealth for when money begats money without any production, right? Interest is not production. Nobody produce. It's fucking usury.
live at the expense of the proletariat. Speculation and exploitation, no doubt, also constitute a sort of labor, but altogether non-productive labor. I know only too well that this mode of life is
Okay, for all those people who keeps talking about how, oh, the accountants, the fucking judges and the lawyers and the fucking pencil pushers, the fucking whatever, like you're saying that is real work. No, it's not. It is not real work because they don't fucking produce anything. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be compensated for their labor, whatever, if you can consider that labor, but it shouldn't be above everyone else. But the reason that they're able to get the high earnings is because of the fucking government. A lot of times the government gives them fucking occupational licenses, which come with a fucking unjust monopoly. And so you're fucking forced to pay them these high fees because there's not free market competition. So the whole system is set up by the fucking government, and the only solution is to support anarchy.
is highly esteemed in all civilized countries, that it is expressly and tenderly protected by all the states, and that the states, religions, and all the juridical laws, both criminal and civil, and all the political governments, monarchies and republican, with their immense judicial and police apparatuses and their standing armies, have no other mission but to consecrate and protect such practice.
I'm sorry to keep stopping, but um somebody in my I had people unsubscribe because I was talking about the Second Amendment and how we didn't have a standing military, we didn't have a standing police force, that when it was time to go to war, they had to form Minutemen to actually come together. And so the right to bear arms was held by private citizens, not by the government. I'm sorry that you got offended by that, but I'm telling you historical, verifiable facts. It is what it is. If you don't want to be educated on what the Second Amendment really means, then that's not my fault. That's your willful ignorance. Again, I'm here to save you from your fucking ignorance. It's not my fault.
In the presence of these powerful and respectable authorities, I cannot even permit myself to ask whether this mode of life is legitimate from the point of view of human justice, liberty, human equality, and fraternity. I simply ask myself, under such conditions, are fraternity and equality possible between the exploiter and the exploited? Are justice and freedom possible for the exploited? Let us even suppose, as it is being maintained by the bourgeois economists and with them all the lawyers, all the worshippers and believers in the juridical right, all the priests of the civil and criminal code, let us suppose that this economic relationship between the exploiter and the exploited is altogether legitimate, that it is the inevitable consequence, the product of an eternal, indestructible social law, yet still it will always be true that exploitation precludes brotherhood and equality. It goes without saying that it precludes economic equality. Suppose I am your worker and you are my employer. If I offer my labor at the lowest price, if I consent to have you live off my labor, it is certainly not because of devotion or brotherly love for you. And no bourgeois economist would dare say that it was, however idyllic and naive their reasoning becomes when they begin to speak about reciprocal affections and mutual relations which should exist between employers and employees. No, I do it because my family and I would starve.
The Constitution supports the right to bear arms, not firearms, two completely different things. No. What I'm trying to tell you is that the Second Amendment was the right for private citizens to bear arms. Um, I'm not sure when firearms came into the picture, but the point is that no government should have the ability to outarm its citizens. So if the government has weapons, we should have those weapons too, because the purpose of the Second Amendment was to defend ourselves from government tyranny. So this is the reason why all these people are getting shot up, and there's nothing that can be done about it because we have no right to defend ourselves. The government has a monopoly on the use of physical force, and the result is tyranny.
To death if I did not work for an employer. Thus, I am forced to sell you my labor at the lowest possible price, and I am forced to do it by the threat of hunger. But the economy.
So you can say that you have free will because you don't have to work for that employer, but it's a choice between eating and starving.
Tell us the property owners, the capitalists, the employers are likewise forced to seek out and purchase the labor of the proletariat. Yes, it is true, they are forced to do it, but not in the same measure. Had there been equality between those who offer their labor and those who purchase it, between the necessity of selling one's labor and the necessity of buying it, the slavery and misery of the proletariat would not exist. But then there would be neither capitalism.
That's by design, of course. No government would ever allow revolution or anarchy if they can use any means to avoid it. Well, that's the whole point. The government is never going to support that because the government wants to remain in power. They don't give a shit about what is just, what is fair. They want your fucking children to be fucking enslaved. They want you to keep pumping more children into this fucking system. Gosh, I hate when I get on here and my phone starts fucking ringing. Train of thought. Um, okay. Yeah, the government is not going to ever support anarchy. And because the masses are so fucking ignorant. I mean, so this is the whole thing. What Noam Chomsky was talking about. The A so-called free society is based on manufactured consent. You're giving your consent, but because you're so fucking indoctrinated, it's not really of your own volition. You're sitting up here watching that fucking live vision, and you're fucking getting programmed to go along with their fucking agenda. It's not of your own volition. You fucking sat up there watching all this bullshit, and you believed every fucking word. It's just like all those people who sat up there watching the fucking. I know y'all are okay. I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to say it. Somebody will report me. But there was a lie that we were told recently, and everybody fucking believed it, and then we're put on house arrest. So that was based on manufactured consent. That wasn't based on the government forcing us to do it. The masses went along with the shit, and they fucking destroyed the fucking economy in the process. And now you're fucking paying the consequences for your own fucking ignorance, because now the fucking US dollar is becoming fucking worthless because people were put on fucking unemployment thanks to you, and they just pumped out money putting people on fucking unemployment. You don't think there's going to be a consequence for this shit? You fucking went along with that shit. It's your fucking fault.
Nor property owners, nor the proletariat, nor rich, nor poor. There would be only workers. It is precisely because such equality does not exist that we have and are bound to have exploiters. This equality does not exist because in modern society, where wealth is produced by the intervention of capital paying wages to labor, the growth of the population outstrips the growth of production, which results in the supply of labor necessarily surpassing the demand and leading to a relative sinking of the level of wages.
Okay, y'all. Any economist will tell you that an oversupply of labor leads to depressed wages, right? It's supply and demand. So if you have more workers than jobs, then you can lower wages. And this is the reason why they want fucking open borders, so they can fucking go. I mean, you shouldn't have to compete with everybody in the whole fucking world. You should only have to compete with people in your local economy. But no, they can just replace your slave ass and bring in somebody else who's willing to work cheaper. So that's not a fair system. And then we have these people who support this bullshit, not realizing that this is a threat to their own fucking survival. Yeah, they can come in and do other jobs, but they shouldn't be able to compete against you and work under the table. No, and I'm sorry, there's a difference between nationalism and statism. I am a nationalist, but I'm not a statist. And what they're doing is statism, right? You can say, oh, I'm supporting statism because I support borders. That's not statism, that's nationalism.
Production, thus constituted, monopolized, exploited by bourgeois capital, is pushed on the one hand by the mutual competition of the capitalists to concentrate ever more in the hands of an ever diminishing number of powerful capitalists, or in the hands of joint stock companies which, owing to the merger of their capital, are more powerful than the biggest isolated capitalists. And the small and medium-sized capitalists, not being able to produce at the same price as the big capitalists, naturally succumb in the deadly struggle. On the other hand, all enterprises are forced by the same competition to sell their products at the lowest possible price. Capitalist monopoly can attain this twofold result only by forcing out an ever-growing number of small or medium-sized capitalists, speculators, merchants, or industrialists, from the world of exploiters into the world of the exploited proletariat, and at the same time squeezing out ever greater savings from the wages of the same proletariat. On the other hand, the mass of the proletariat, growing as a result of the general increase of the population, which, as we know, not even poverty can stop effectively. And
y'all hear that shit? You would think that because of overpopulation leads to poverty, that they would stop having fucking children. But no, the more impoverished they become, the more fucking children they fucking pop out.
through the increasing proletarianization of the petty bourgeoisie, ex-owners, capitalists, merchants, and industrialists, growing, as I have said, at a much more rapid rate than the productive capacities of an economy that is exploited by bourgeois capital. This growing mass of the proletariat is placed in a condition wherein the workers are forced into disastrous competition against one another. For since they possess no other means of existence but their own manual labor, they are driven by the fear of seeing themselves replaced by others to sell it at the lowest price. This tendency of
Okay, so he's talking about because of the competition, you're basically forced to sell your labor at the lowest price because you're competing against all these other people. And so if you don't if you don't have some type of income, you're basically going to starve. But yeah, sovereign citizen is an oxymoron. If you're sovereign, you're your own. If you're a citizen, you can't be sovereign. If you're a citizen, that means the state is sovereign, which is why it's so hard to receive justice, because when you fucking sue the fucking government, they're going to fucking claim sovereign immunity, and then you're going to fucking get screwed. And even if they're not claiming sovereign immunity, they're going to be claiming some variation of it, which is going to be qualified immunity or judicial immunity, and they can fucking get away with murder, and it's not a damn thing you can do about it.
the workers, or rather, the necessity to which they are condemned by their own poverty, combined with the tendency of the employers to sell the products of their workers, and consequently buy their labor at the lowest price, constantly reproduces and consolidates the poverty of the proletariat. Since he finds himself in a state of poverty, the worker is compelled to sell his labor for almost nothing, and because he sells that product for almost nothing, he sinks into even greater poverty. Yes, greater misery indeed. For in this galley slave labor, the productive force of the workers, abused, ruthlessly exploited, excessively wasted, and underfed, is rapidly used up. And once used up, what can be its value on the market? Of what
Your leverage as the proletariat. I'm sorry, as a proletariat, your labor is your leverage, right? You don't want competition. You want to keep the population as low as possible. That way you can demand more wages. Stop having all these fucking children, right? Because only thing they're going to do is have to compete against more people, which is going to lower the wages. And they're going to have to compete against the entire fucking globe, because now we have a fucking global economy, to where now you're going to have to compete against somebody in fucking India and fucking Mexico and fucking um Brazil or wherever the fuck. Like, this is not sustainable. We need to develop self-sustaining local economies based on bartering.
worth is this sole commodity which he possesses and upon the daily sale of which he depends for livelihood? Nothing. And then? Then nothing is left for the worker but to die. What, in a given country, is the lowest?
There is nothing left for the worker to do but to die. There is no fucking free will. You're a fucking slave. The only way to fucking escape it is to fucking die. And so then your life served no purpose whatsoever. Somebody got some fucking cheap labor out you, and then you fucking die. Like, that's it. What is the cycle? Work, eat, sleep, and then work again, rent, cycle, repeat? Is that the purpose of life, to be a fucking slave?
Possible wage. It is the price of that which is considered by the proletarians of that.
I'm not sure how you mean this shit is madness. Are you saying that I'm the madness, or are you saying that the system is madness? Because if you disagree with what I'm saying, then I can post a link and you can debate what I'm saying. It is what it is. This is a fucking slave system, and that's the only reason why y'all are fucking popping out babies.
Country is absolutely necessary to keep oneself alive. All the bourgeois economists are in agreement on this point. Turgot, who
I'm not sure what the new system is going to be. They're going to create a new system, but in the meantime, there's going to be a lot of suffering, because, it's going to shift the balance. I mean, first of all, we don't produce anything. So if we're relying on the third world to produce our food and our products, we're the ones who are going to get hit hardest. We have a service-oriented economy. So how the fuck are we going to survive?
Saw fit to call himself the virtuous minister of Louis XVI, and really was an honest man, said, quote, "The simple worker who owns nothing more than his hands has nothing else to sell than his labor. He sells it more or less expensively, but its price, whether high or low, does not depend on him alone. It depends on an agreement with whoever will pay for his labor. The employer pays as little as possible. When given the choice between a great number of workers, the employer prefers the one who works cheap. The workers are, then, forced to lower their price in competition against the other. In all types of labor, it necessarily..."
So they keep telling Americans that we need to bring in all these workers from third world countries because Americans just won't do it. The reality is that they will do it. They just want to be paid fair wages. But the fucking capitalist slavers don't want to pay you fair wages. They want to bring in some fucking third worlders so they can fucking undercut you and fucking force you to work for scraps, for pennies. Meanwhile, they can drive up their bottom line.
It follows that the salary of the worker is limited to what is necessary for survival. Unquote. J.B. Saint, the true father of bourgeois economists in France, also said, quote, "Wages are much higher when more demand exists for labor and less is offered, and are lowered accordingly when more labor is offered and less demanded."
Right? You want the demand to be higher than the supply. The demand for labor, you have that disparity going on, then you can demand more wages, right? You don't want an oversupply of labor. You don't want competition. You don't want to compete against the entire fucking world. You don't want to be popping out all these babies so that they will have to compete against all these people to get a fucking job.
It is the relation between supply and demand which regulates the price of this merchandise called the worker's labor, as are regulated all other public services. When wages rise a little higher than the price necessary for the workers' families to maintain themselves, their children multiply and a larger supply soon develops in proportion with the greater demand. When, on the contrary, the demand for workers is less than the quantity of people offering to work, their gains decline back to the price necessary for the class to maintain itself at the same number. The families more burdened with children disappear. From then forward, the supply of labor declines, and with less labor being offered, the price rises. In such a way, it is difficult for the wages of the laborer to rise above or fall below the price necessary to maintain the class, the workers, the proletariat, in the number required." Unquote. After citing Turgot and J.B. Saint, Proudhon cries, quote, "The price, as compared to the value in real social economy, is something essentially mobile, consequently essentially variable, and that in its variations it is not regulated more than by the concurrence, let us not forget, that as Turgot and Saint agree, has the necessary effect not to give to wages to the worker more than enough to barely prevent death by starvation and maintain the class in the number."
Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. You're one paycheck away from being homeless. What kind of life is that? Do these fucking breeders think about that shit when they fucking pop out all these fucking children? Do they even think about creating a fucking family trade or some type of skill to allow their fucking offspring to fucking survive? No. All they care about their fucking narcissism is, I need a fucking child to fucking validate me. Me, selfish, cannibalistic, fucking dumbass slavers.
Numbers needed. Unquote. The current price of primary necessities constitutes the prevailing constant level above which the workers' wages can never rise for a very long time, but beneath which they drop very often, which constantly results in inanition, sickness, and death, until a sufficient number of workers disappear to equalize again the supply of and demand for labor. What the economists call equalized supply and demand does not.
This is what I'm trying to tell y'all. Like the free market actually fixes itself, right? Because if there aren't enough jobs, people naturally would stop procreating because they can't provide for the children. But when you have this fucking welfare state, you can artificially prop the fertility rates by sustaining it artificially by taking wealth from some and giving to the others. So this is what I'm trying to tell y'all. It allows them to continue procreating even though they don't even have any fucking jobs, right? So all this shit is a product of statism. And somebody was asking me what we do without a police force, and we have, mass populations. There wouldn't be any fucking mass populations without fucking statism. In a state of nature, people would naturally control their own procreation based on their ability to provide for them. But they don't have to do that. They can be reckless because the government is going to fucking pick up the slack.
Not constitute real equality between those who offer their labor for sale and those who purchase it. Suppose that I, a manufacturer, need 100 workers and that exactly 100 workers present themselves in the market. Only 100, for if more came, the supply would exceed demand, resulting in lower wages. But since only 100 appear, and since I, the manufacturer, need only that number, neither more nor less, it would seem at first that complete equality was established, that supply and demand being equal in number, they should likewise be.
What do you think about unions? Because my recent job union was UAW. I'm not sure what that means, and most of my experience was negative. It was quite a blurry line between management and them. Very little support. I don't know. I think in general, labor unions are a good thing. I wish more jobs would become unionized. Excuse me. The problem is that the unions have to compete in a free market also. Just because the current union exists doesn't mean that you have to buy in. My state is a right to work state, which you don't have to be unionized. You don't have to join a union in order to get a job. If the union is not doing this role, not protecting its workers, then you shouldn't support it, and you shouldn't have to pay any union dues. So, or you can just get rid of the current union management and elect somebody else. But it's better. It's called collective bargaining. Like, there's strength in numbers, so it's better than trying to fend for yourselves. But the problem is that people don't understand what is in their rational self-interest. This is the reason. This is where Ayn Rand's philosophy of objectivism comes in. You have to know what is in your rational self-interest and stop with this altruistic bullshit of sacrificing yourself for the benefit of the collective. If it's not serving your rational interest, then don't fucking go along with it. Don't think, oh, just because the majority said that, then I'm going to go. No, this is the reason why I'm putting my foot down when it comes to saying what I want to say. I'm tired of the majority trying to silence me and trying to get me to go along with their bullshit. You fucking matter as a human being and as an individual. So if you have self-esteem, then you should put yourself above everyone else. It's not even about like being selfish and whatever, but it's about you fucking matter just as much as everybody else. So don't let them fucking bully you.
Equal in other respects. Does it follow that the workers can demand from me a wage and conditions of work assuring them of a truly free, dignified, and human existence? Not at all. If I grant them those conditions and those wages, I, the capitalist, shall not gain thereby any more than they will. But then, why should I have to plague myself and become ruined by offering them the profits of my capital? If I want to work myself as workers do, I will invest my capital somewhere else, wherever I can get the highest interest, and will offer my labor for sale to some capitalist just as my workers do. If, profiting by the powerful initiative afforded me by my capital, I ask those 100 workers to fertilize that capital with their labor, it is not because of my sympathy for their sufferings, nor because of a spirit of justice, nor because of a love for humanity. The capitalists are by no means philanthropists. They would be ruined if they practiced philanthropy. It is because I hope to draw from the labor of the workers sufficient profit to be able to live comfortably, even richly, while at the same time increasing my capital, and all that without having to work myself. Of course I shall work too, but my work will be of an altogether different kind, and I will be remunerated at a much higher rate than the workers. It will not.
Y'all see the injustice of this bullshit? Those who don't actually fucking produce are remunerated in a higher manner than those who actually produce. The fucking the people who actually grow the crops are making more less, excuse me. Those who actually produce the crops, those who manufacture cars, those who fucking pave the roads and shit, they're making less than the fucking judges and the accountants and all the other fucking parasites on society. This is bullshit.
Be the work of production, but that of administration and exploitation. But isn't administrative work also productive work? No doubt it is. For lacking a good and an intelligent administration, manual labor will not produce anything, or it will produce very little and very badly. But from the point of view of justice and the needs of production itself, it is not at all necessary that this work should be monopolized in my hands, nor, above all, that I should be compensated at a rate so much higher than manual labor. The cooperative associations already have proven that workers are quite capable of administering industrial enterprises, that it can be done by workers elected from their midst and who receive the same wage. Therefore, if I concentrate in my hands the administrative power, it is not because the interests of production demand it, but in order to serve my own needs, the ends of exploitation. As the absolute boss of my establishment, I get for my labor 10 or 20 times more than my workers get for theirs.
I mean, I would feel so guilty if I mean, the whole problem is that these employers don't even know the value of their own labor. So they're producing all this shit and maybe they're making $15 an hour, but they don't realize the value of their actual labor. So you're making $15 an hour and you don't realize that your employer is actually getting $40 an hour off your labor. Like, they don't tell you what the bottom line is. You don't get to see those figures. This is the reason why I'm not built for capitalism, because I would actually feel guilty about that shit. I would not feel good about myself exploiting people in this manner.
And this is true despite the fact that my labor is incomparably less painful than theirs. But the capitalist, the business owner, runs risks, they say, while the worker risks nothing. This is not true, because when seen from his side, all the disadvantages are on the part of the worker. The business owner can conduct his affairs poorly, he can be wiped out in a bad deal, or be a victim of a commercial crisis, or by an unforeseen catastrophe. In a word, he can ruin himself. This is
Maybe that was true at the time that this book was written, but currently we have fucking bailouts. Now they're too fucking big to fail. So they don't even have to suffer the consequences of their own fucking incompetency. The fucking government is going to fucking bail them out while leaving us left to fend for ourselves. They're just going to fucking print more fucking money, ruin the fucking currency, because it's not fucking money, it's fucking currency, which if y'all didn't fucking report me, more people could have actually listened to that live stream. Well, this is the reason why I'm doing live streams like this, because people really need to realize what's going on. And there's layers to anti-natalism. Like, there's some things that are not going to resonate. Just telling people that they shouldn't have children is not going to be sufficient. You need to explain in detail how this fucking bullshit system works, because most people don't fucking get it. Just like that woman who came, or that person who came in my comment section talking her bullshit and then she fucking left. She doesn't understand. She thinks that this is natural. This is the way things are supposed to be. You're supposed to be a fucking slave.
True, but does ruin mean for the bourgeois point of view to be reduced to the same level of misery as those who die of hunger, or to be forced among the ranks of the common laborers? This so rarely happens that we might as well say never. Afterwards, it is rare that the capitalist does not retain something despite the appearance of ruin. Nowadays, all bankruptcies are more or less fraudulent. But if absolutely nothing is saved, there are always family ties and social relations who, with help from the business skills learned which they pass to their children, permit.
The capitalist usually has a fucking golden parachute. They always land on their fucking feet. It's not the same as you and I. When we fall, we actually fall. And we have to pull ourselves up by our fucking bootstraps, whereas they have other people to fucking rescue them. They have other capitalists to save them, to give them jobs, to invest in a new business venture. So they don't fall back to the bottom. They may fall, they're still going to be at the top. Maybe not at the top of the top, but they're still going to be in a much higher position than you.
Permit them to get positions for themselves and their children in the higher ranks of labor, in management, to be a state functionary.
I would say, well, I would say the real energy is knowledge, and it's also courage. This is what Aristotle was talking about, these virtues. And there's certain things that I wanted to mention about Aristotle, but I kind of forgot what I wanted to say, but maybe it'll come to me as I continue listening to what he's talking about.
To be an executive in a commercial or industrial business, to end up, although dependent, with an income superior to what they paid to their former workers. The risks of the worker are infinitely greater. After all, if the establishment in which he is employed goes bankrupt, he must go several days and sometimes several weeks without work, and for him it is more than ruin, it is death, because he eats every day what he earns. The savings of the workers are fairy tales invented by bourgeois economists to lull their weak sentiment of justice, the remorse that is awakened by chance in the bosom of their class. This ridiculous and hateful myth will never soothe the anguish of the worker. He knows the expense of satisfying the daily needs of his large family.
And by the way, the Supreme Court just denied those student loan cancellations and shit. That's what I'm talking about. They'll fucking bail out these fucking corporatist slavers, but when it comes to the proletariat, they don't fucking give a shit about us. They're going to tell us to pull ourselves up by our fucking bootstraps, even though it was them who told us that we couldn't get a decent job, we'd be flipping burgers unless we got a fucking education. They created these fucking occupational licenses requirements, which forced us to take out student loans in order to get a fucking decent job. And then after we took out the fucking student loans, the jobs that they promised us were not fucking there. And rather than taking fucking personal responsibility, they're going to blame us for feeding into their bullshit. That's the reason why you can't fucking trust them. Don't listen to them. You're responsible for educating yourself. They're fucking lying. They don't give a fuck about you. You're going to be the one who gets fucked over. You're going to be stuck with the fucking student loans, and they're not going to do shit to fucking help you.
If he had savings, he would not send his poor children from the age of 6 to wither away, to grow weak, to be murdered physically and morally in the factories, where they are forced to work night and day, a working day of 12 and 14 hours. If it happens sometimes that the worker makes a small savings, it is quickly consumed by the inevitable periods of unemployment which often cruelly interrupt his work, as well.
And I'm sorry, I'm sure my situation isn't unique, but a lot of times I work in 12, 16-hour shifts. I don't have a lot of free time. And this, I don't know, y'all. I mean, you can't imagine what somebody's life is like. You don't know what situation they're going through. Y'all can sit up here and tell me that I'm making an excuse for not being vegan. I don't have fucking time. I don't know. I don't have time to sit. Okay, I don't want to go down that road, but I'm trying to tell you that all these things are interconnected. This is the reason why I was telling y'all that real veganism is anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, and anti-colonial. list, right? You can't just address one issue. All these things are interconnected, right? When someone is working all the time, they're fucking wage slave. I mean, maybe your situation is better. Maybe your situation is comfortable. Maybe you have time to focus on that. Other people don't. That is a luxury. You should consider yourself very lucky.
As by the unforeseen accidents and illnesses which befall his family. The accidents and illnesses that can overtake him constitute a risk that makes all the risks of the employer nothing in comparison. Because for the worker, debilitating illness can destroy his productive ability, his labor power. Overall, prolonged illness.
Yes, I'm against all occupational licenses. I'm against accreditations. I'm against anything that is compulsory. If it's not based on the free market, then I'm against it. Um, the government creates these problems and then they come up with some bullshit solution to try to fix it, and they never actually fix it because they love keeping things the way that they are. They love keeping us enslaved so they can control us and tell us how to live our fucking lives and maintain they're the ones who are getting wealthy off this shit. You see, I mean, you know, Hillary Clinton is wealthy as fuck. How do you become wealthy as a fucking public servant? I'm not sure how much time it's. I'm not going to get specific because, again, somebody's going to fucking report me and say that I'm promoting a scam, which I'm not sure how it's a scam when I'm not getting anything out of this. I'm not even this live stream is not even fucking monetized. So how is it a fucking scam? What am I getting out of it? Um, I think ignorance is bliss, which is why so many people are fucking ignorant. They don't want to know the fucking truth. They want to put their head in the fucking sand and pretend that nothing is fucking going on. But the problem with that, as an anti-natalist, this is the reason why people continue to procreate in the first place. They don't want to accept the harsh realities of the world. This is the reason why I lean more on Arthur Schopenhauer than David Benatar, because he lays out the entire foundation of pessimism to look at the negative. So for anti-natalists to not want to accept the harsh realities of this bullshit system, it means that you're an anti-natalist who rejects pessimism, which is the foundation of anti-natalism. If you don't adopt a pessimistic philosophy, then I don't see how you can be an anti-natalist, and I don't see how you can sell it to anybody else. You have to present the worst case scenario. You have to look at the bad. The shit that I'm saying right now sounds horrible, but it is what it is. You can tune it out. It doesn't change reality.
Illness is the most terrible bankruptcy, a bankruptcy that means for him and his children hunger and death. I know full well that under these conditions, that if I were a capitalist who needs 100 workers to fertilize my capital, that on employing these workers, all the advantages are for me, all the disadvantages for them. I propose nothing more nor less than to exploit them. And if you wish me to be sincere about it and promise to guard me well, I will tell them, quote, "Look, my children, I have some capital which by itself cannot produce anything, because a dead thing cannot produce anything. I have nothing productive without labor."
Well, they're trying to replace us with fucking AI. What are we going to do then? You're going to be pumping some fucking slaves into this fucking system, and that your fucking slave children are going to be replaced with AI, and they're really going to be fucked.
As it goes, I cannot benefit from consuming it unproductively, since having consumed it, I would be left with nothing.
All of them are fucking inside traders. That's what I'm trying to say. Unless you came into politics as a wealthy person, there's no way you should become wealthy. I mean, you become middle class like Bernie Sanders or somebody, which I'm not promoting Bernie Sanders, but I'm just talking about how he hasn't used his career in so-called public service to amass massive wealth. Um, you shouldn't become mega wealthy by being a fucking public servant. That's fucking insider trading. And they're trying to, okay, I don't want to get specific because I'm not trying to promote a specific political party, but they're trying to accuse somebody of insider trading, even though they're doing the exact same fucking thing.
But thanks to the social and political institutions which rule over us and are all in my favor.
I appreciate it. Yeah, that's why I got reported, because they didn't want to hear the fucking truth. But to get back to what I was just saying, the end of the day, first, I haven't. Okay, I don't want to say this because somebody probably will report it if I say it. It's so difficult trying to talk, and then you have to walk on eggshells, and you can't say things for what they really are. But at the end of the day, the government is fucking selling us out. They don't give a fuck about us. They're all fucking insider trading. They have insider information and they're using it against us.
In the existing economy, my capital is supposed to be a producer as well. It earns me interest, from whom this interest must be taken, and it must be from someone, since in reality, by itself, it produces absolutely nothing.
This is what I'm trying to tell y'all. Interest produces nothing. So what interest really is a means of exploiting wealth from those who actually do produce. Because even when you look at this fucking fiat currency bullshit, it's based on interest. It's based on sucking what did Aristotle called it unnatural wealth. It's not wealth that is produced from actual labor. It's exploitive. It's, to me, it's illegitimate, but people see it as legitimate because that's just the way that things are done. But it's a way of sucking countries dry of their natural wealth and reallocating it to countries like America, which doesn't produce shit.
This does not concern you. It is enough for you to know that it renders interest. Alone, this interest is insufficient to cover my expenses. I am not an ordinary man as you. I cannot be, nor do I want to be, content with little. I want to live, to inhabit a beautiful house, to eat and drink well, to ride in a carriage, to maintain a good appearance, in short, to have all the good things in life. I also want to give a good education to my children, to make them into gentlemen, and send them away to study, and afterwards, having become much more educated than you, they can dominate you one day as I dominate you today. And as education alone is not enough, I want to give them a grand inheritance, so that divided between them, they will be left almost as rich as I.
These parents don't have a fucking inheritance. They don't have shit to leave their fucking children, except maybe some. I mean, some of y'all may have some type of inheritance. If you were born middle class, but a lot of people are poor. They don't have anything. A lot of parents are actually leaving their children in debt. They don't even have a fucking life insurance policy, and their children are going to have to pay for their fucking burial expenses, and they probably haven't even paid off their fucking mortgage. And so, yeah, you're just they try to make it seem like the children are a burden to their parents, but really it's the parents that are a burden to their children. We're going to have to take care of you and your fucking financial irresponsibility.
Consequently, because all the good things in life I want to give myself, I also want to increase my capital. How will I achieve this goal? Armed with this capital, I propose to exploit you.
Well, there's certain topics that I can't talk about. I get it, and I see why. I was trying to be coded because I didn't actually say what I wanted to say. But even my coded language was enough to get me reported and to get my live stream taken down. So I was talking, running my mouth, and people were asking me, "Where are you? What happened to your live stream?" I'm thinking that it still is streaming on YouTube, and it wasn't. And then I thought, okay, well, I'll just appeal, and then I'll get it uploaded again. And no, they affirmed the appeal, and so I thought it was a lot of valuable information that people could have benefited from, but it is what it is. I can't say it. So if if a free society is dependent upon an informed electorate, then we can't have a free society because you're not allowed to receive the proper information to make you an informed voter.
Propose that you permit me to exploit you. You will work and I will collect and appropriate and sell for my own behalf the product of your labor, without giving you more than a portion which is absolutely necessary to keep you from dying of hunger today, so that at the end of tomorrow you will still work for me in the same conditions. And when you have been exhausted, I will throw you out and replace you with others. Know it well. I will pay you a salary as small, as impose on you a working day as long, working conditions as severe, as despotic, as harsh as possible. Not from wickedness, not from a motive of hatred towards you, nor an intent to do you harm, but from the love of wealth and to get rich quick, because the less I pay you, and the more you work, the more I gain.
This is why Aristotle referred to money chasing as a vice, because according to Aristotle, you should live within a golden mean, which is not too much, not too little. So you should you should acquire enough wealth to provide for your family. And he said slaves. I guess they had slaves back then. But if you're just money chasing for the sake of money chasing, then you become a slave to the invisible master, which he never defined what the invisible master is. But you basically become evil and you become antisocial, and it gets in the way of you experiencing eudaimonia. Yeah, I pronounced that right. Sometimes some of these words I'm like, did I pronounce that right? But the basically self-actualization, because you're not put on earth just to make money. It's also about friendships. It's also about being in service to your community. It's also about your hobbies and your own interests. Just making money is not an end unto itself. It's an end. I'm sorry, it's a means towards furthering other things. So I would like to make money so that I can promote things that are of interest to me, the types of social policies that I think are important. Specifically, I would like to overthrow the fucking bar association, but I don't have enough money or clout to fucking do that. Nobody's forcing you to be here. Nobody, you're the fucking fascist who supports physical force. You're the fucking status cockroach who decided to bring your raggedy ass into my fucking live stream. Nobody's forcing you to. This is why I keep trying to trigger you people to leave my fucking channel. Nobody forced you to make your fucking exit and get the fuck out. Matter of fact, I'm going to make it easy for you because I'm just going to fucking block you so you can shut the fuck up and get off my channel.
Quote. That is what is said implicitly by every capitalist, every industrialist, every business owner, every employer who demands the labor power of the workers they hire. But since supply and demand are equal, why do the workers accept the conditions laid down by the employer? If the capitalist stands in just as great a need of employing the workers as the 100 workers do of being employed by him, does it not follow that both sides are in an equal position? Do not both meet at the market as two equal merchants, from the juridical point of view at least, one bringing a commodity called a daily wage to be exchanged for the daily labor of the worker on the basis of so many hours per day?
Okay, y'all. There was another comment which I fucking deleted and fucking banned her, but this is a fucking triggered reptilian brain breeder who couldn't handle the fucking reality of what it is. This is what life is. They're fucking breeding you into this fucking capitalistic system, but they don't want to hear this shit. They want to fucking put their fucking heads in the sand and pretend that life is something glorious. This is not, listen, this is just the tip of the fucking iceberg. I haven't even gone into the shit. That other live stream that was fucking taken down, that's when I really got into that shit. But that was taken down, so you don't get the You're not privy to hear that because YouTube decided to fucking censor me. I feel that what I'm talking about right now is pretty light content. It's trapid affairs. I'm not saying anything controversial. I mean, it's pessimistic, but you know good and damn well that you don't like your fucking job. You know you're a fucking wage slave. You're fucking clocking in 9 to 5 or 8 to 4, whatever the fuck your hours are. You don't like your fucking job, but you have to do it anyway and put on a fucking fake smile just so you can fucking put food on the table. And you know that if you have children, your children are going to suffer a fucking similar fate. So I'm not making this shit up. If you can't handle fucking truth, then get the fuck out, unsubscribe, take your raggedy ass to go watch fucking television on something that is more entertaining.
And the other, bringing his own labor as his commodity to be exchanged for the wage offered by the capitalist, since, in our supposition, the demand is for 100 workers, and the supply is likewise that of 100 persons, it may seem that both sides are in equal position. Of course, nothing of the kind is true. What is it that brings the capitalist to the market? It is the urge to get rich, to increase his capital, to gratify his ambitions and social vanities, to be able to indulge in all conceivable pleasures. And what brings the worker to the market? Hunger, the necessity of eating today and tomorrow. Thus, while being equal from the point of juridical fiction, the capitalist...
This is what I was trying to tell y'all. The people who enjoy life are the ones who are making our lives a living fucking hell. They get off on this shit. They enjoy it. They're having fun at our expense. They're enjoying life off of the fruits of our labor. And then we have dumbasses who are fucking slaves, who have fucking Stockholm syndrome, who are attached to this fucking slave world, who want to pop more fucking children into this fucking system. And I'm trying to save you from your fucking ignorance, and then you want to come for me. Fucking get off my fucking channel. Go find some fucking mindless content. Go watch some fucking celebrity bullshit. That's not what my channel is about.
And the worker are anything but equal from the point of view of the economic situation, which is the real situation. The capitalist is not threatened by hunger when he comes to the market. He knows very well that if he does not find today the workers for whom he is looking, he will still have enough to eat for quite a long time, owing to the capital of which he is the happy possessor. If the workers whom he meets in the market present demands which seem excessive to him...
Well, this is the problem. Somebody said, what Sun Goddess said, what happens if you become disabled? Well, they have to think about that when they decide to procreate, because they're just thinking about creating a cute little baby. They don't think about, okay, well, first of all, you could be born defective, right? But even if you're not born defective, you can develop a disability later on in life. And then how are you going to provide for yourself? But no, you're out of sight, out of mind. They fucking pop you out into fucking hell, and now you're left to fend for yourself. And so you were a cute little baby before. Now you're a 60-year-old woman who has fucking disabilities. You can't fucking walk, and you're fucking I don't know. You could even have mental health problems, and that is all a result of the fact that they fucking pump you into the system in the first place. So that was the whole when I upload that live stream that I did yesterday, that is what David Benatar was talking about. That it's not just about a temporal moment where you're experiencing pleasure. It's about the duration of a person's life from cradle to grave. What is the sum total? The sum total is that you suffer more than you experience pleasure. That is not debatable.
Because, far from enabling him to increase his wealth and improve even more his economic position, those proposals and conditions might, I do not say equalize, but bring the economic position of the workers somewhat close to his own. What does he do in that case? He turns down those proposals and waits. After all, he was not impelled by an urgent necessity, but by a desire to improve his position, which, compared to that of the workers, is already quite comfortable. And so he can wait, and he will wait, for his business experience has taught him that the resistance of the workers who, possessing neither capital nor comfort, nor
Listen, if I wanted to get on disability, I'm pretty sure that I could do it. I just don't want to be dependent on the system. There are people who are on disability who are not really disabled. They just don't want to fucking work. But this is the way the system is set up. I just don't want to do it because I don't trust the system. I think that if I was out of the workforce for a significant amount of time, it would be difficult to get back into the workforce. But um, yeah, it's a lot of red tape. And so those who actually need it are not able to access it. This is why the whole fucking system is a scam.
any savings to speak of, are presented by a relentless necessity, by hunger, that this resistance cannot last very long, and that finally he will be able to find the 100 workers for whom he is looking, for they will be forced to accept the conditions which he finds it profitable to impose upon them. If they refuse, others will come who will be only too happy to accept such conditions. That is how things are done daily with the knowledge and in full view of everyone. If, as a consequence of the particular circumstances that constantly influence the market, the branch of industry in which he planned at first to employ his capital does not offer all the advantages that he had hoped, then he will shift his capital elsewhere. Thus, the bourgeois capitalist is not tied by nature to any specific industry, but tends to invest, as it is called by the economists, exploit is what we say, indifferently in all possible industries. Let's suppose, finally, that learning of some industrial incapacity or misfortune, he decides not to invest in any industry. Well, he will buy stocks and annuities, and if the interest and dividends seem insufficient, then he will engage in some occupation, or shall we say, sell his labor for a time, but in conditions much more lucrative than he had offered to his own workers. The capitalist then comes to the market in the capacity, if not of an absolutely free agent, at least that of an infinitely freer agent than the worker. What happens in the market is a meeting between a drive for lucre and starvation, between master and slave. Juridically, they are both equal, but economically, the worker is the serf of the capitalist, even before the market transaction has been concluded, whereby the worker sells his person and his liberty for a given time. The worker is in the position of a serf because this terrible threat of starvation, which daily hangs over his head and over his family, will force him to accept any conditions imposed by the gainful calculations of the capitalist.
This is the human predicament. You are enslaved to the will. You have to eat in order to fucking survive. And that is going to be the driving force behind most of your actions. So, whereas the capitalist is just driven by greed, you're driven by your own fucking survival. And then you become more of a fucking slave when you have children. How is this not common sense?
Industrialist, the employer. And once the contract has been negotiated, the serfdom of the workers is doubly increased. Or, to put it better, before the contract has been negotiated, goaded by hunger, he is only potentially a serf. After it is negotiated, he becomes a serf in fact. Because what merchandise has he sold to his employer? It is his labor, his personal services, the productive forces of his body, mind, and spirit that are found in him and are inseparable from his person. It is therefore himself. From then on, the employer will watch over him, either directly or by...
Didn't I tell you? No, I'm not even going to say what I was going to say. I was going to use that thing about past, present, and future, but that applies to governments. Noam Chomsky is basically saying that uh, capitalism is basically the same as statism, or at least analogous, because it still is authoritarian. But what I was about to say is really applicable to statism, so I'll just keep that little comment. But yeah, when you give your life away to some fucking capitalist, you are a slave. Like, there's no way to look at it. I mean, you can say that you have a choice, but really it's a choice between going from one slaver capitalist to another slaver capitalist. You can start your own business, but you have to have capital for that. So that's the whole argument. In order to enslave others, you need to have capital.
Means of overseers. Every day during working hours and under controlled conditions, the employer will be the owner of his actions and movements. When he is told, do this, the worker is obligated to do it, or he is told, go there, he must go. Is he not what is called a serf? Karl Marx, the illustrious leader of German communism, justly observed in his magnificent work Das Kapital that if the contract freely entered into by the vendors of money in the form of wages and the vendors of their labor, that is, between the employer and the workers, were concluded not for a definite and limited term only, but for one's whole life, it would constitute real slavery. Concluded for a term only and reserving to the worker the right to quit his employer, this contract constitutes a sort of voluntary and transitory serfdom.
This is what I'm saying. Wage slavery is the renting of a human being versus the owning of a human being. It's not chattel slavery, but it's wage slavery, but the effects are essentially the same.
Yes, transitory and voluntary from the juridical point of view, but nowise from the point of view of economic possibility. The worker always has the right to leave his employer, but has he the means to do so? And if he does quit him, is it in order to lead a free existence in which he will have no master but himself? No, he does it in order to sell himself to another employer. He is driven to it by the same hunger which forced him to sell himself to the first employer. Thus, the worker's liberty, so much exalted by the economists, jurists, and bourgeois republicans, is only a theoretical freedom, lacking any means for its possible realization, and consequently it is only a fictitious liberty, an utter falsehood. The truth is that the whole life of the worker is simply a continuous and dismaying succession of terms of serfdom, voluntary from the juridical point of view, but compulsory in the economic sense, broken up by momentarily brief interludes of freedom accompanied by starvation. In other words, it is real slavery. This slavery manifests itself daily in all kinds of ways, apart from the vexations and oppressive conditions of the contract which turn the worker into a subordinate, a passive and obedient servant, and the employer into a nearly absolute master. Apart from all that,
by the way, even in jurisprudence, when it comes to vicarious liability, when you're trying to sue the employer, it's called a master-servant contract. So they, in the law, they still refer to your employer as your fucking master.
It is well known that there is hardly an industrial enterprise wherein the owner, impelled on the one hand by the twofold instinct of an unappeasable lust for profits and absolute power, and on the other hand, profiting by the economic...
Okay, y'all. So we're getting close to the end. I posted the link if anybody has any comments about wage slavery, or I mean, if that woman wasn't so damn emotional, she could have actually had an opportunity to come up here and argue with me. But she didn't want to make arguments. She wants to talk about how I'm just so negative and this is depressing. It is what it is. Life is depressing. And that's the problem. People don't want to accept the reality of what life actually is.
Economic dependence of the worker does not set aside the terms stipulated in the contract and wring some additional concessions in his favor. Now he will demand more hours of work, that is, over and above those stipulated in the contract. Now he will cut down wages on some pretext. Now he will impose arbitrary fines, or he will treat the workers harshly, rudely, and insolently. But, one may say, in that case the worker can quit. Easier said than done. At times the worker receives part of his wages in advance, or his wife or children may be sick, or perhaps his work is poorly paid throughout this particular industry.
This is why when I get accrued vacation, I cash it in immediately. And I keep trying to tell people, cash in your fucking vacation as soon as it accrues. And they're like, oh, well, no, when I take vacation, I need to get paid. You fucking dumbass. You're going to get paid anyway because that money is already going to be in your bank account. But if you wait until you need it, you may get fired before you get to use your vacation, and then you fucking lose out on all that fucking money. So no, I'm cashing my vacation in as soon as I get it. And then if I need time off, I just take it as unpaid vacation.
Other employers may be paying even less than his own employer, and after quitting his job, he may not even be able to find another one. And to remain without a job spells death for him and his family. In addition, there is an understanding among all employers, and all of them resemble one another. All are almost equally irritating, unjust, and harsh. Is this calumny? No. It is the nature of things, and in the logical necessity of the relationship existing between the employers and their workers.
All right, y'all. So that's it. Um, I'm sorry to paint such a pessimistic view of life, but I mean, that's that is the reality for many of us, that we're just working and we're miserable. And this is the reason I don't know why people are so dismissive when we talk about it. They think that, oh, you're just depressed, you just need to get over it. It's like, no, you don't understand what someone's day-to-day life is like. I mean, I gotta fucking go. Yeah, I got work to do tonight. So I'm working. I don't know, maybe you have a 40-hour job and you just get to come home and chill and shit. No, I'm always working fucking overtime, and I don't fucking enjoy my job, and it's depressing as fuck. But they're telling you you're supposed to have a positive outlook despite the fact that you're forced to live this drudgery just to fucking survive, when they're telling you you don't even have the right to fucking, remove yourself from this fucking hellscape. All right, y'all. So I posted the link. I don't know if anybody wants to come up, but I'm pretty much done. Once the hyperinflation hits, I believe people will say, just got to work harder and get 3 more jobs. Won't question a damn thing. Well, life is going to be very different from what it is right now. Your ability to have a single family home, private property rights, all that shit, this is about to come to an end. You're gonna be living with fucking roommates, with fucking strangers. You're gonna be forced to be vegan because that's more sustainable. You're not gonna be able to choose what kind of work you're gonna be doing. I mean, people have been talking about what's going to happen. It's not going to be pretty. But again, like you said, they're probably going to justify procreating anyway, because we've already had harsh situations in the past. Even during fucking slavery, people were popping out babies. And I understand that some women were raped, but all of them were not raped. But most of them were having children voluntarily. Even during the fucking Holocaust, they were having children. They were having children during the fucking camps. There's all kind of studies and historical records showing that they were getting pregnant on purpose during that shit because they had hope. They had hope for the future. Okay. Well, it doesn't look like anybody's coming up, so hopefully y'all got something out of this. I think y'all would have gotten more out of the live stream I did about the monetary system, but yeah, you definitely are creating a wage slave. It is an actual slavery. It's not. I know it sounds like it's an oxymoron, but you are actually enslaved to your master, which is your employer, because you are in a perpetual state of debt. No, it's not funny, but they don't care. It's funny to them because it hasn't it hasn't hit home yet. So that's the reason why I can't wait until this happens, because I really want to see how people react, because they are so dismissive when we tell them how horrible life is, and they're going to get a dose of their own fucking medicine. And then when they come whining and crying, I'm going to say the same shit they said to us, because we've already realized it. So we're not going to get the shock that they're going to get. We're going to already be well adjusted. We're going to be able to adapt to this fucking hellscape, because we've already been living in hell. But when things get bad for them, I'm going to gaslight them in the same manner that they gaslit us. Oh, that's life. Oh, get over it. Oh, you need help. Oh, you need some counseling. Oh, I don't want to hear it. Oh, you're ruining my day. Life is wonderful. I'm going to gaslight them the same way they gaslit us. All right, y'all. That's all I have. I'm going to end this live stream. Y'all have a good one.